Picture this. A boy gets reborn into the exact same nightmare that ruined his life the first time around, and instead of running from it, he smiles. Because this time, he already knows how the story ends. His name is Ethan Walker, and right now, he's watching his own girlfriend point a finger at him in front of the whole class. See, moments ago, the school bully slapped her on the butt, right in front of everyone. Ethan didn't throw a punch, he didn't even raise his voice. He just turned around and walked away. So naturally she chased him down the hallway, screaming that he was a coward, and Ethan, hearing that word, just let out this careless little smile, because he's heard this exact accusation before in another life. See, two-faced girl, did you really think this was still your last life? Last time around, Ethan charged in without thinking and beat that bully bloody. And what did he get for it? She went around calling him a simp behind his back. Then she teamed up with the bully to file a complaint against him, straight to the teachers. Ethan ended up with a disciplinary record on his file. Worse than that, he lost the biggest turning point of his entire life, the gaokao. And the punchline? After graduation, she started dating that same bully. The two of them got married. So now that Ethan's been given a second shot at senior year, why would he wreck everything again for a girl like her? Right now, sitting inside the teacher's office, listening to the two of them spin their little story, he finds the whole thing almost funny. Last time he argued back until his voice gave out, and none of it mattered. At first he couldn't understand why the teacher refused to believe him. Later he figured it out. This so-called investigation was never real. It was a formality from the start. Brad Stone is the dean's son, and the homeroom teacher knew it the entire time. So no matter what Ethan said, nothing was ever going to change. The other side was never getting punished. And Jessica Lane, his so-called girlfriend, was never on his side either. "Alright, you two can head back to class now," the homeroom teacher says. Mr. Sullivan nods the second Jessica gives her version of events. "Ethan Walker, what am I supposed to do with you? Your grades aren't bad. How do you drop the ball this close to the gaokao? Even if you like Jessica Lane, you could have waited until after graduation. Hitting people is wrong. Do you understand that? Your punishment's already decided." A 1,500-word self-reflection, announced to the whole school. There's a little over 100 days left until the gaokao. Do you really want to torch your future over something like this? Ethan keeps his face completely blank. "No," he says. And just like that, Mr. Sullivan's temper snaps. "What did you just say? You're refusing? Do you have any idea how serious this is? The other family not pressing charges is already a mercy. And you're going to sit there and refuse me? Whether you write it or not, the punishment happens either way. If you won't admit fault, I have no choice but to call your parents." Ethan just smiles. The teacher pulls up the parent contact list on his computer and dials Ethan's mother, right then and there. Honestly, Ethan doesn't care. Compared to everything he suffered in last life, even failing the gaokao can't touch him now. "No matter what you say, I'm not writing any reflection," he repeats. "I did nothing wrong. And as for the truth, teacher, you already know it better than anyone. Punish me however you want, I don't care." With that, Ethan stands up and walks straight out of the office. Are you kidding? He's a reborn soul. Why would he fear someone like Mr. Sullivan now? Now that he's back in senior year, he refuses to bow his head ever again. Back then, failing the gaokao broke something in him. Every exam question from that year is still burned into his memory. And he swears this time, he's taking back every ounce of glory that should have been his. When Ethan walks back into the classroom, the whole room is buzzing. How'd it go? How'd it go? A few close classmates crowd around him instantly. He just laughs. They want a self-reflection, an apology, and a school-wide announcement. "I already told the teacher I'm not writing a single word." He sits down, pulls out his textbooks, and gets to work. Beside him, Kevin Park gives him a thumbs up. "Badass. What'd the teacher say?" Ethan shrugs. "He's calling my parents." But Jessica Lane hears that, and suddenly her whole face changes. She grabs his arm and drags him out into the hallway. "How could you refuse the teacher like that?" she pleads. "What if this blows up? I know you're mad that I lied, I'm sorry. But think about it. Would you rather we both get punished, or just you?" She puts on the most pitiful face she can manage. Last time, it was exactly this act that made Ethan take the fall for her alone. He became the fool of the entire school because of it. Not this time. "Didn't you say you don't even like Brad Stone? Why are you protecting him?" "I'm not," Jessica insists. "I just don't want things to get complicated. If you don't want to write it, I'll write it for you. Just admit fault to the teacher and it's over." She clings to his arm, eyes wet. "I really don't want my parents finding out. Help me and I'll agree to anything." Ethan plays along. "Anything like what?" She bites her lip. "You like me, right? I'll give you a real chance." He bursts out laughing. "Save that chance for someone else." And he walks straight back into the classroom. He was blind in his last life. That doesn't mean he has to be blind in this one too. Besides, if he's chasing anyone, it's going to be his actual dream girl. Who would ever pick a fake princess over that? And right on cue, his eyes light up. Because right about now, that girl should still be at the neighboring school, getting bullied and overlooked. Not long after, the homeroom teacher calls him back to the office. His mother is already there, her face complicated. She never expected her son to fight over puppy love. This was the obedient kid, the one with the perfect grades, the one nobody ever worried about. I've already told your mother what happened. Explain the rest yourself, the teacher says. Mrs. Walker sighs and pulls her son into the corner of the office. Ethan leans close and tells her everything quietly, then pulls out his phone to show her Jessica's actual text messages. His mother's face goes cold with fury. How can a girl lie like this? She snaps, holding the phone up in front of Mr. Sullivan. My son didn't just wander in because of some post online. That girl told him herself she was being harassed. Mr. Sullivan is caught off guard, but he grits his teeth anyway. Fine, lying is wrong, but he still hit the foot, and that someone is a track athlete. What if his hand or foot gets hurt? Won't that wreck his own exams? Then the teacher turns back to Ethan. All I'm asking is for you to reflect on the fact that you hit someone. You can't just go around hitting people, can you? Ethan smiles. Setting all that aside, you're really something, teacher. Could I also be the emperor of China, while we're setting things aside? They were both in the wrong, so why am I the only one being punished? How about all three of us get disciplined together? I really don't care. Mr. Sullivan's face turns purple. A 1,500-word reflection isn't enough anymore, make it 3,000, with schooled criticism. And that right there is the moment this entire situation spirals completely out of control. Ethan just smiles wider. Brad Lustone's definitely not getting a school-wide announcement, is he? Are you sure you deserve to be a teacher? Mr. Sullivan shoots to his feet, roaring that Ethan is now insulting him directly. Take it straight to the dean's office. I'm done handling this, he snaps at the parent beside him. But here's the thing Mr. Sullivan conveniently forgot to mention. Brad Stone is the dean's own son. Is the dean really going to let his own kid take the fall? Half an hour later inside the dean's office, Dean Hall puts on his sternest face. Forget who's right or wrong. Let's talk about attitude. He talked back to a teacher whose heart started acting up from the stress. Ethan Walker has to apologize and read a 3,000-word reflection in front of the entire school. If he can't recognize his mistake, this school cannot keep teaching him. Mrs. Walker's face drains of color. Are you saying you'll expel my son? He's in his senior year. Dean Hall just points at Ethan. Look at him. He doesn't even respect his teachers. Ethan's mother tries to explain, but before she can finish, Ethan cuts in. Mom, it's fine. If it comes to it, I'll just transfer. I'm sick of first high anyway. Dean Hall nearly loses it completely. Either he writes a serious reflection or he drops out. Ethan smiles. I don't even want to attend this school anymore. Word spreads through the class like wildfire. Transfer? Are you insane? What about the Gaokao? A few of his closer classmates crowd around, begging him to just write the reflection. The homeroom teacher said if you apologize, this whole thing gets dropped. One girl says, frustrated. Why should the rest of us lose class time because you won't just say sorry? Jessica's crying. Her parents are already on their way to the school. Are you happy now? Right at that moment, the entire room falls silent. The vice principal clears his throat. Who is Ethan Walker? Step outside. Ethan assumes it's just another lecture. Instead, it's a full-blown ultimatum. First High doesn't need a student like you. If you don't want to study here, leave. Ethan's face stays blank. The vice principal is so furious he can barely catch his breath, then drop out. That's the exact moment Jessica's parents finally arrive. And the first thing they do isn't scold their daughter. They point straight at Ethan. Who do you think you are, accusing our daughter of lying? This kid needs to be moved out of the class entirely. He'll keep harassing her. Ethan's mother is about to fire back, but Ethan cuts her off gently. I'm dropping out, Mom. Don't worry, my grades will only get better once I leave. And right then the physics teacher sighs. There's an Olympiad next month. I was going to recommend you. It's worth Gaokao bonus points. There's only one slot per class. If you drop out, it goes to someone else. And of course, Jessica's mother jumps in immediately. What about our Jessica? Let her try instead. The physics teacher gives an awkward smile. Her grades are only average though. 2 days later, Ethan brings his withdrawal form for the teacher's signature. You've ruined your own future, Mr. Sullivan mutters, unable to hold back. Ethan just shrugs. Teacher, apologize to me right now and I might reconsider. The teacher's face turns dark. He signs the form on the spot. Next stop, the dean's office. More mocking remarks, another signature. Finally, the actual principal's office. So you're the student who talked back to the teacher? What a shame, the principal says. And it really is a shame, losing a student with these grades. But a corner of Ethan's mouth lifts and an idea flashes through his head. Principal, I hear the school's applying to become a provincial key demonstration school. If you want me to stay, just have the homeroom teacher and the dean apologize. The principal actually rolls his eyes. Nobody has ever demanded an apology from him like this. Get out, he says, and signs the form without hesitation. Back in the classroom, Ethan's deskmate Kevin Parks sighs dramatically. Now I've got nobody to copy homework from. Ethan laughs and shoves him. All you think about is homework? Try studying yourself for once. In his last life, Kevin was one of the only classmates as who stuck by him, even after he bombed the Gaokao. It was Kevin who told him about Jessica marrying Brad Stone years later. Ethan was the only clown invited to that wedding. Even now, thinking about it, the whole thing feels absurd. Finally, the dismissal bell rings. Ethan is about to walk out of this school for good. Someone calls out behind him, "It's Jessica. I never meant to hurt you," she says quietly. Watching him drop out, her conscience is finally starting to bother her. Ethan turns and looks at her, completely blank. "When you lied to that teacher, I really was angry. I never imagined you were this kind of person." Jessica's eyes well up. "How could I possibly hurt you on purpose?" But looking at the girl in front of him, Ethan's heart doesn't hold a single ounce of old affection. Her explanations are just cover-ups. She's not a good person at her core. "You're really pathetic, ending up with Brad Stone. Let's just unfriend each other." These are words he's bottled up for an entire lifetime. Even on her wedding day, he'd imagined saying them, but it was always just a fantasy. He never thought he'd actually get the chance. Being reborn really does feel damn good. Back home, the first thing Ethan does is open his laptop and log into the First High online forum. He posts a hiatus notice for a serial novel he's been writing in secret ever since being reborn. Fans immediately flood the comments begging him to come back. Ethan reads them and smiles, so he does have a bit of talent after all. Monday arrives, and Ethan officially transfers from First High to Second High. Because his grades are decent, paperwork word first, and he's assigned to Senior Class 4. The homeroom teacher Ms. Lambert also teaches English. Ethan makes one small request. "Teacher, can I sit next to Mayabelle?" Ms. Lambert pauses, curious, but agrees. When Ethan steps into the classroom for the first time, the math teacher is running a test. "Let me introduce our new transfer student," Ms. Lambert says. "Hello everyone, I'm Ethan Walker. My grades are average, but I have excellent character and I never fight." The teacher nearly bursts out laughing. A girl wearing glasses lifts her head dazed and glances at him. This is the first time Ethan sees Mayabelle. She's timid, reserved, the kind of girl who barely registers on anyone's radar. But Ethan already knows something the rest of this classroom doesn't. After graduation, when everyone looks back, they'll realize just how badly they misjudged her. He walks over on his own and starts moving his desk right next to hers. The moment the break bell rings, Ethan becomes an exhibit at the zoo. Students from other classes crowd the hallway just to gawk at him. "Is that him? He got in a fight, got kicked out of First High," someone whispers. No, he was chasing some girl who didn't even like him back." Ethan just laughs it off, still stuck with the tired label, a simp. A girl named Luna walks over grinning. "You went after a First High girl and fought her dean's son? Hardcore. By the way," she adds, "I actually know Jessica Lane." Ethan raises an eyebrow. Great, his entire backstory is already public, and his seat hasn't even gone cold yet. Luna leans in playful. "How about you give up on Jessica and chase me instead?" The classroom erupts in laughter around her. But before Ethan can answer, a voice cuts through the noise like a blade. "He's just a simp. The girl doesn't even like him and he still fought for her. It's Jason Pierce, and he's not stay away from Luna Knight." In his last life, that kind of warning might have actually scared him. Now watching a teenager try to act tough, Ethan just finds it absurd. He glances over at his deskmate, instead quietly doing homework, head down. His adorably clueless little rich girl, still the best one in the room. "Do you know who I am?" he asks her. Mayabelle freezes, then shakes her head. "Good, then let's start over. I'm Ethan Walker." "Do you actually fight?" she asks nervously. "No, they're making it up." "Then be careful," she warns. "Because Jason Pierce might hit you." Ethan just smiles. "It's fine, it won't come to that." Then out of nowhere he asks, "Do you have a boyfriend?" Mia freezes completely, face turning bright red. "Then how about me? Do you want to be with me?" She stammers, grabs a math test as an excuse and bolts out of the classroom. With a personality like hers, she's probably never been confessed to this directly in her life. And for some reason Ethan finds himself genuinely excited. Maybe life at Second High is going to be a lot more fun than expected. When the English teacher hands back the reading comprehension test, Ethan makes a delightful discovery. His English is leagues above the average high schooler here. After all, in his last life, he passed college-level English exam, memorizing thousands of words most of these students have never even seen. He finishes the entire test with only one wrong answer. Last time around, he scored a disappointing 112 on this exact section of the Gaokao. This time he's confident he can break 140. Ms. Lambert asks the class to raise their hands if they got 5 questions or fewer wrong, then 4 or fewer, then 3 or fewer. Out of 40 students, only one hand stays up after that. Luna Knight, with 2 wrong. Ethan Walker, the teacher says, curious now, "How many did you miss?" Every set of eyes in the room turns toward him. Trying to keep a low profile, he says, "Quite a few, teacher. I didn't do well." "It's fine, your deskmate Mayabelle is solid in English. Ask her for help," the teacher offers. Ethan's eyes light up immediately. "Wonderful, there's so much I don't understand." Mia tenses up instantly, still too scared of him to even look his way. Jason Pierce, slouched in his seat, drawls, and he calls himself a top student. Nothing special after all. Ms. Lambert decides to check the actual test for herself. Let me take a look. The moment she flips through it, she freezes completely. Every single answer is correct. Only one multiple-choice question wrong. Didn't you say you got a lot wrong? She asks, stunned. Ethan sighs, painfully sincere. Getting even one wrong is unacceptable to me. Entire classroom explodes. Luna covers her mouth in shock. That's incredible. A real top student. Jason's mouth twitches as he glances at his own test. Show off, he mutters. Not long after, Ethan hears a girl behind him complaining about a forum novel that stopped updating. He asks if she reads it too. Mia nods carefully. It's good. It turns out the entire class has been reading his story. All because a teacher recommended it. And Ethan suddenly understands why his readership exploded so fast. A corner of his mouth lifts. See, odd time to submit this work properly, become a contracted author. Then Luna calls out loudly across the room. Hey new student, do you know who writes that first high novel? Every gaze in the room lands on him at once. Ethan smiles slightly. Yes, I know him. The whole classroom lights up with excitement, and for the first time he feels the pure appeal of being a novelist. Just then, the Chinese teacher, Mr. Ross, walks in and calls his name directly. Chinese is your weak subject, right? He asks. Yes, teacher, honestly my worst subject. But instead of studying during class, Ethan spends the entire period writing on his phone. When the bell rings, Mr. Ross catches him red-handed. You've been on your phone this whole class? Out in the hallway, the teacher demands an explanation. Ethan hands over his phone. Mr. Ross glances at the screen and freezes completely. This is the next part of the plot. Is this, wait, you wrote this? It turns out Mr. Ross has been reading the exact same novel he recommended in class. His expression shifts instantly from stern to something like awe. Even so, you still need to attend class, he says. Trying to recover. Ethan grins. Get me first place in Chinese on Friday's joint mock exam, and I'll let you write during my class. Chinese first, not total score, the teacher clarifies. You said you can guarantee 140 on the Gaokao. Then it's settled, Ethan says without hesitation. If I get first place, you let me write. The four-school joint mock exam combines first high, second high, experimental high, and Huashi high. The rankings from this exam carry real weight, often predicting who lands top-tier university spots later. Mr. Ross asks one more thing. You should sign up for the national writing competition too. Ethan's eyes light up. Would that help the school's bid for provincial demonstration status? Of course it would, the teacher says, surprised the kid even knows about that. Done, sign me up. Meanwhile, back at First High, the classroom is as in an uproar over the missing forum novel. Jessica Lane finally admits to Mr. Sullivan that she knows exactly who wrote it. It's Ethan Walker, she says quietly, guilt written all over her face. Mr. Sullivan's head starts buzzing. This kid's Chinese grades were always mediocre. How could this be him? And here's the real problem. Mr. Sullivan already told the vice principal, and everyone else, that a current student wrote it. Now that student has already dropped out. Absolutely do not tell anyone Ethan Walker wrote it, he orders Jessica. Just say you don't know. He calls the vice principal and lies again, claiming the novel was actually plagiarized. But just as he thinks the crisis is buried, a student in class suddenly calls out, Teacher, wait, the novel just updated 5 minutes ago. Mr. Sullivan freezes like he's been struck by lightning. Panicking, he calls the dean directly, admitting the truth this time. The dean is furious. Why didn't you just say he dropped out in the first place? This isn't my problem anymore, the dean snaps, you handle it. So Mr. Sullivan comes up with a new plan. Get the forum moderator to delete the account entirely. Over at Second High, students are logging in to check the new chapter when the post suddenly vanishes. It's gone, Mia gasps, staring at her phone in disbelief. Ethan checks his own account. Sure enough, deleted. He half laughs. Badass, they really want to wipe me out. Mr. Ross pulls him aside later, curious why the post disappeared. Ethan shrugs. Because I dropped out probably. Otherwise, things keep spiraling. Just post on the Second High forum instead, Mr. Ross suggests. You're a student here now. No one touches your posts. That night, Ethan does exactly that, uploading everything and adding a brand new chapter for good measure. Meanwhile, Luna Knight cozies up to him with a secret of her own. That novel's yours, isn't it? Ethan raises an eyebrow. Did Jessica tell you? She grins and refuses to say. But she does discover something else. Mia has been jealous and it's adorable. On Wednesday, PE class runs the whole grade 1,500 meters. Watching Mia run in silence, head down, Ethan finally understands why nobody ever pursued her. She's been mocked into invisibility, folded into herself. But right now, he feels like he's discovered a hidden gem nobody else bothered to notice. So from this point forward, he decides he's going to be the one who treasures her. Later that same day, a group of girls corner Mia and Sophie, mocking Ethan's taste in women. Mia comes back with tears in her eyes and refuses to say a single word about why. And that right there is the spark that lights the biggest fuse of the entire semester. Ethan marches straight over to the girl responsible, and demands a written apology on the spot. Luna, caught in the crossfire, bursts into tears in front of everyone, completely blindsided by his temper. Jason Pierce comes storming over, furious that someone made Luna cry. He points straight at Ethan. Don't leave after school. By the end of the day, the entire classroom is buzzing the same rumor. Jason's calling in backup. Mia, terrified, slides Ethan a note begging him to let her apologize to Luna instead. Ethan writes back, refusing flatly. He already has a plan. Got any money? He scribbles. I need to hire some guys. 2 minutes later, his phone buzzes with a transfer notification, and he stares at the number in disbelief. $286,751 sitting in his account. Is that enough? If not, I can ask my mom for more. Ethan buries his face in his hand and laughs. This girl is insane in the best possible way. He immediately calls Kevin Park back at First High. Someone's planning to jump him after school. Talk to your cousin. Get me some guys at the Second High gate. $300 a person. Kevin nearly chokes. Bro, is Second High really that rough? The dismissal bell finally rings. Luna pulls Ethan aside, panicked. Jason's got people waiting outside. I told him not to. Just apologize if you can't fight back, she pleads. Ethan just laughs and walks toward the gate with total swagger. Luna turns to Mia, begging her to stop him, but Mia shakes her head. I trust him. This isn't about trust, Luna snaps. Jason called a ton of people. Mia hesitates and admits quietly he called people too. Outside the gate, a group of punks in dyed hair and metal pipes are already waiting, smoking casually. One of them drapes an arm around Ethan's shoulder. You're the transfer student, right? Ethan sizes them up. Just a handful of dropout kids on cheap scooters, barely intimidating at all. Just you guys? I thought they called way more, he says, almost bored. And that's exactly when a massive wave of grown men surges out from the bus stop like a tidal wave. Parents shield their children. The security guard shakily pulls out his phone. The punks freeze completely. Brother 6, is this really all of them? A few kids at a school gate. It turns out Kevin's cousin brought an army. Dozens of grown men, all summoned by $300 a head. You handle it however you want, Ethan tells them calmly. The guy who called you here isn't even present. Jason, meanwhile, deliberately went to the teacher's office beforehand, building his alibi. Dozens of men haul the punks aside for a very serious conversation. By the time the dean arrives at the gate, there's nothing left to see. No fight, no students, nobody hurt. But word spreads through the class that night like wildfire. Someone snapped photos of grown men hauling those punks away, and everyone is stunned. Turns out the quiet transfer student is somehow more dangerous than the school's resident tough guy. Jason gets called into the office and made to write a self-criticism essay on the spot. Meanwhile, back at Second High, the forum lights up again with news that the missing novel has resurfaced right here. Sophie Jenkins gasps, realizing the author transferred from First High to Second High, just like Ethan did. It really is Ethan Walker, she blurts out, and the whole classroom erupts. Tina Reed, terrified she'll be targeted next, rushes to write Mia a full apology letter. Luna does the same but adds something unexpected. Let's compete fairly. Let's see who wins Ethan's heart. Mia is completely stunned. She never imagined a guy like him could actually like her back. The next morning, Ethan walks into school as the undisputed man of the hour. Even Leo Carter, one of Jason's own friends, starts calling him Biggie and praising his novel non-stop. Back in class, Ms. Lambert calls both Ethan and Jason out into the hallway. You both know why I called you out, right? Ethan smiles. Teacher, I didn't fight. Jason and I are best buds. Why would we fight? Jason, completely dumbfounded, can only manage one word, yeah. Ms. Lambert, for exas, threatens to seat them together. Both boys instantly refuse in unison. She lets it go, mostly because Ethan clearly wasn't beaten up, and Jason spent the whole afternoon in the math office instead. Before leaving, Ethan slips in one more request. He wants to sign up for the English speaking contest. The next morning brings news that the joint mock exam results are finally in. Ethan ranked first in the entire class in Chinese and fourth across the whole grade. Even Second High only produced 2 perfect score essays total, and one of them belongs to him. Not bad, Ethan mutters. But what do I do if I didn't take the top spot in the school? After all, he bragged to Mr. Ross that he'd claimed the #1 Chinese ranking outright. Meanwhile, back at First High, a very different scene is unfolding. A rumor is spreading online about students getting into a prestigious university without even taking the Gaokao. Leo Carter announces excitedly that he's already been accepted through some special joint entrance exam. Jessica Lane cheers even louder. Out of 201 students, only 21 got in, and she's one of them. But Kevin Park has a bad feeling about all of it. He messages Ethan, who replies with a knowing laugh. What a coincidence. A friend of mine got the same offer. He's crying right now. Kevin brings the warning back to class, and it does not go over well. Jessica and her friend Cindy call him jealous, mocking him in front of everyone. So Jessica calls the number listed for the university's admissions office, right in front of the whole class. A friendly voice confirms everything. Yes, there's a joint entrance exam. Yes, it's real. Cindy and Jessica gloat instantly, rubbing it in Kevin's face. But Kevin isn't satisfied. He looks up the university's actual official number and calls it himself on break. The real answer comes back cold and clear. There is no joint entrance exam. There never was. The fees you paid, the voice says you've been scammed. Report it to police immediately. Kevin rushes back into class just as Mr. Sullivan is teaching at the podium. The moment the teacher hears the university's name, his face goes pale. Jessica breaks down completely, realizing her family's money is already gone. Meanwhile at Second High, the actual police have already arrived. It turns out Ethan quietly reported the scam days earlier, the moment he realized what was happening, because he already lived through this exact story once before, and this time, he made sure the right people got warned. Kevin sends him a message that night, practically giddy. Watching Jessica cry her way out of that office is so satisfying. That afternoon, Mr. Ross pulls Ethan aside with even bigger news. The Board of Education is coming tomorrow to inspect the school, and they want him to speak at an open literature event. Ethan figures it's nothing major. Just bluff his way through it. But the moment he arrives, the room is completely packed. And it's being filmed for the whole school district. Standing at the podium, he opens by flashing his own test scores on the big screen behind him. "Why do I show my scores first?" he asks the crowd. Any junior know the answer? A boy raises his hand nervously, guessing something thoughtful about talent and hard work. Wrong. Completely wrong, Ethan grins. "I'm just showing off. I wanted you all to know I'm way ahead of you." The room erupts into laughter, and even the teachers can't help but crack a smile. He shares one simple mantra, 3 lines that stick with everyone in the room. Do simple things repeatedly. Do repeated things persistently. Do persistent things joyfully. By the end of his speech, even the Board of Education leaders are applauding, genuinely impressed. That night, the video of his speech gets pinned to the school forum, and it spreads like wildfire. But nobody in that crowd of admirers has any idea what Ethan's actually doing behind closed doors. Because he's not just a novelist and a top student, he's quietly building something else entirely. Weeks earlier, Ethan started researching e-commerce, betting on a wave he already knows is coming. He picks a niche nobody else is touching, selling a certain overlooked lingerie brand online. With Mia's family fortune quietly funding the entire operation, orders start pouring in fast. Jason, still desperate for money to cover his family's hospital bills, becomes his first real business partner. By the following week, the store is pulling in tens of thousands of dollars a day. Christmas orders explode overnight, and suddenly they need actual hands to keep up with shipping. Ethan convinces Ms. Lambert to quietly loan them a school computer for the operation. She's horrified when she sees exactly what they're selling, but she agrees to help anyway for Jason's sake. Revenue crosses $300,000 within days, and suddenly there's a brand new problem. They need cash up front just to ship the inventory out. Jason's family has nothing left to give. Every dollar they had went to hospital bills already. Ethan texts Mia, half joking, asking if she has any more money hiding anywhere. Her reply nearly stops his heart. She stole her father's bank card, and when Ethan checks the balance at the ATM, he nearly drops his phone. $1,450,000, sitting right there. Combined with everything else, he's now borrowed nearly $2 million from this one clueless, generous girl. He swears to himself, right then, if he doesn't cherish this girl properly, he's an absolute fool. Back at school, Jason starts disappearing to the library every single break, stunning the entire class. The kid who once called in a gang to jump someone is now the one buried in textbooks. Meanwhile, the police investigation into the scam finally wraps up, and the arrests go public. It turns out only Second High's victims managed to recover their stolen money in time. Because Ethan reported it early, the fraud ring's account tied to this school got frozen before the cash disappeared. Every other school's money had already vanished by the time authorities caught up. An officer explains it plainly to a furious crowd of parents. Thank the student who reported it, Ethan Walker. But there's a twist buried in that statement that nobody in the room expects. Ethan's official school record still lists him under First High, not Second High, which means a First High student saved money for a completely different school and left his own former classmates with nothing. The parents who lost everything are furious, confused, and absolutely done waiting for answers. A crowd of over 20 of them marches straight to First High, cursing the whole way there. They storm from the senior year teacher's office, demanding to know who Ethan Walker even is. The staff freeze. Students in the hallway crowd around, whispering, trying to figure out what's happening. "You're his homeroom teacher, right?" One furious parent shouts right in Mr. Sullivan's face, and just like that, the same teacher who tried so hard to bury this story finds himself standing right at the center of it. Because here's the thing nobody in that office understands yet. Ethan never forgot who he used to be at that school. Even after he left it behind, some part of him still remembered every single classmate who might get hurt by that scam, First High or not. So while everyone assumed he only cared about himself now, the truth was far more complicated. He'd simply learned the hard way exactly who deserved his loyalty this time around. And First High wasn't on that list anymore. Not after everything they put him through. Back at Second High, none of this chaos touches Ethan directly. He's too busy living his actual life. Business is booming, his grades are climbing, and the girl beside him is slowly coming out of her shell. Mia signs up for the school talent show, something Ethan later learns she hasn't done in years. Turns out she's a piano prodigy, something the entire class had no idea about until now. Ethan signs up too, promising something ridiculous. Word spreads that Ethan Walker will be performing something at the school showcase, and curiosity spikes instantly. Meanwhile, back at First High, Dean Hall gets a phone call that shakes him completely. The principal has ordered every senior class to hold mandatory outdoor PE, no exceptions. Turns out a Board of Education leader tipped them off, praising Second High's approach over First High's. Dean Hall never imagined one student could cause this much disruption from another school entirely. Desperate, he tracks down Ethan's home address and insists on personally delivering his old school file. Ethan's father is baffled by the gesture. "You really think this happens in real life?" Ethan just smiles quietly to himself. He knows exactly why the dean suddenly cares so much. Meanwhile, back at First High, Mr. Sullivan gets wind of Ethan's photo with the education board leaders. His stomach drops instantly. If this kid really has connections, his own teaching certification could be at risk. And that's when the fear really sets in. Because Mr. Sullivan realizes something he should have understood from the very beginning. He never actually beat Ethan Walker. He just delayed the moment Ethan won. Back at Second High, the joint mock exam scores finally get posted in the hallway. Ethan ranks first in the entire class in Chinese, third in math, third in English. His total score lands him 10th in the whole grade, an outcome he genuinely didn't expect to feel this satisfying. Mia points proudly at her own name on the list. 41st in the grade with a strong science score. Ethan grins and gives her nose a playful pinch. "Bring that score up, come to Yanjing instead of staying local. That way," he adds, "you can actually see me." Sophie gasps, "You're aiming for Yanjing? Which school there?" Ethan answers without missing a beat, Tsinghua or Peking, obviously. Because the truth is, in his last life, this exact window of time was the only edge he'll ever have. After the Gaokao, that advantage disappears completely, and he knows it. So every single day right now matters more than any of them realize. Back at First High, Vice Principal Grant is still fuming over the online popularity rankings from the school's writing contest. Ethan's old deleted novel is crushing every other submission combined votes nobody else can touch. "Get me a novel that can beat his," he orders Mr. Sullivan, practically pleading. Mr. Sullivan even suggests quietly having a teacher ghostwrite something to compete. The vice principal shoots the idea down instantly. Cheating a student out of a contest doesn't sit right, even for him. In the end, they simply delete the ranking altogether and rewrite the contest rules to exclude former students. It's a quiet admission of exactly how thoroughly they've already lost. Back at Second High, Ethan's new life keeps expanding in every direction at once. He's tutoring Jason in exchange for shipping labor. He's writing chapters between classes. He's running a six-figure business from his bedroom. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, he's slowly falling for the girl sitting right beside him. Mia still blushes every single time he teases her. She still can't quite believe any of this is real. "Miss Bell," he tells her one afternoon, "don't forget you're treating me to a movie this weekend." She stammers that she's broke now, having handed him nearly her entire family fortune already. Ethan laughs until his stomach hurts. This girl is somehow both a genius and completely, hopelessly clueless. On Saturday, they meet at the mall, and for the first time, Ethan sees her out of uniform completely. A simple white dress, no makeup, still wearing her glasses and somehow unmistakably beautiful. He hands her a small bracelet and she freezes, staring at it like she's never received a gift before. He puts it on her wrist himself before she can even react. Then he takes her hand and leads her into the mall, and it's clearly the very first time she's ever held hands with a boy. Old First High classmates spot them in line at the movie theater, and photos spread through group chats within minutes. Back home, Jessica Lane sees the picture and goes completely silent. Meanwhile, sitting in the theater, Ethan leans over and whispers, "Is this your first movie with a boy?" Mia nods blankly, munching popcorn. It tastes really good. Her total obliviousness genuinely cracks him up every single time. After the movie, Ethan doesn't head straight home. He's got another business call to make. He recruits Kevin's cousin to bring on dozens of workers, boosting his store's visibility fast. By the following weekend, over 30 people are working under him, purely on commission. Just as business hits its stride, a message lands in the class group chat that changes everything. Jason Pierce's grandmother has been hospitalized. His father was in a car accident the week before. The family is drowning and Ms. Lambert asks the class to lend a hand however they can. Ethan doesn't send money. He does something better. He teaches Jason how to make his own, so the kid never has to rely on charity again. And that's the exact moment Jason stops being a rival and becomes something closer to a brother. The next morning, Mr. Ross delivers even bigger news. The joint exam results have officially been finalized school-wide. Ethan Walker is ranked first in Chinese across the entire grade, not fourth first. The classroom absolutely erupts. Even Mia looks at him with something close to pure admiration. Just lucky, Ethan says, rubbing the back of his neck, unable to say the real reason out loud. Meanwhile, back at First High, the Chinese teacher hands out the same exam and sighs at the results. The kid genuinely worked harder at Second High than he ever did here, she tells a stunned Kevin Park. Kevin just laughs. Hard work sure, between running a lingerie store and taking girls to the movies. Back at Second High, the leader's open class inspection finally arrives, and Ethan gets pulled aside personally. Director Song, from the Provincial Board of Education, asks him directly which school he actually prefers. Ethan chooses his words carefully, praising Second High's balance without ever attacking First High outright. In my view, he says, test scores aren't the only measure of a good education. The leaders nod along, genuinely impressed by how thoughtfully he frames the whole comparison. If you were voting for the demonstration school, one leader asks, which would you pick? Ethan grins, whichever school I'm at, honestly, so, Second High. The leaders burst out laughing, completely charmed. Fair enough, everyone wants their school to win. Before they leave, Ethan asks for one more thing, a photo, just to brag to his friends. The leaders find the request hilarious and happily oblige. That photo, posted online within the hour, ends up landing right in Mr. Sullivan's lap by lunchtime. His stomach drops instantly. This kid has connections he never accounted for. And that fear only grows worse when Dean Hall gets an order straight from the principal. Every seniors class at First High must now hold mandatory outdoor exercise, no exceptions, because Second High apparently does it better. One student, one transfer, and an entire rival school scrambling to keep up. Back at Second High, life keeps moving forward at a dizzying pace. Jason's grades climb steadily, the business keeps growing, and the school's literature club officially launches with Ethan as its guest of honor. The recorded video of his speech goes viral across the entire school forum, pinned and highlighted for weeks. Comments flood in from students who've never even met him. So you really wrote the novel, incredible. But behind all that public admiration, Ethan is quietly running numbers on Christmas orders late into the night. The upfront investment has nearly drained Mia's entire savings account, and Christmas hasn't even hit yet. On the bus one morning, Ethan runs into Jessica Lane and Cindy Lloyd, both looking noticeably shaken. Did you get the money back? He asks almost too casually. Jessica lowers her head, whispering a quiet thank you for warning them before it was too late. Then she asks if he's free on Christmas, hoping for one more chance to apologize properly. Ethan looks at this so-called first love, the girl who once destroyed his entire life, and genuinely feels nothing. Not free, he says flatly, and steps off the bus without a second glance back. Whatever hold she once had over him is completely gone now, erased by 2 lifetimes of hard-earned clarity. Back in class, Christmas orders start flooding in faster than anyone can process. Jason nearly loses his mind checking the store's back end. The main product is selling like crazy. This is just the beginning, Ethan tells him calmly, already 3 steps ahead. Revenue keeps climbing through the following week, crossing $300,000 total, and that's when the real headache starts. They need cash up front just to fulfill every single order. Jason's family has nothing left. Every spare dollar already went toward medical bills and repairs. So Ethan turns to the one person who's never once said no to him. Mia sends over the numbers before he even finishes asking, no hesitation whatsoever. And when Ethan checks that balance at the ATM, his jaw nearly hits the floor. $1,450,000. From a girl who still can't do her own makeup. He swears to himself right then, if he doesn't take care of this girl properly, he's the biggest fool alive. Meanwhile, at the police station, victims from every rival school are furious that only Second High families got their money back. An officer finally explains the truth. One student reported the scam early enough to save it, Ethan Walker, but there's a wrinkle nobody in that room expects. Ethan's official records still list him under First High, not the school he actually attends now. Which means, technically, a First High student saved Second High's money and left his former classmates with nothing. The parents, who lost their savings, are absolutely done waiting for an explanation. Over 20 of them march straight to First High, furious, demanding answers from anyone who'll listen. They storm into the senior year teacher's office, and the whole room freezes on the spot. You're Ethan Walker's homeroom teacher, right? One parent shouts directly at Mr. Sullivan, and there it is. The exact moment every lie this man is told finally catches up to him at once. Mr. Sullivan stands there, completely speechless, surrounded by furious parents demanding answers he doesn't have. Because the truth is simple, and it's finally impossible to hide anymore. Ethan Walker never needed First High. First High needed him, and threw him away without a second thought. Every single teacher who mocked him, doubted him, or tried to bury his talent is now watching that decision blow up in real time. Meanwhile, back at second high, none of this touches Ethan at all. He's too busy living the life he actually built. His grades keep climbing, his business keeps expanding, and the girl beside him keeps opening up, piece by piece. The talent show is approaching fast, and Mia's been quietly practicing piano every night after class. Ethan's still keeping his own act a total mystery, refusing to tell anyone what kind of magic trick he's actually planning. Rumors swirl through the entire school. Some say he's bringing in props, others swear it's just an excuse to show off again. And honestly, knowing him by now, both of those things are probably true at the same time. Back at first high, the fallout from the scam scandal keeps spreading, wider than anyone anticipated. Parents start asking harder questions. Why didn't the school warn them sooner? Who exactly dropped the ball here? And every single answer leads right back to one dropped student, and the teachers who underestimated him completely. Dean Hall starts quietly distancing himself from Mr. Sullivan, unwilling to share the blame any longer. The senior teacher certification Mr. Sullivan was chasing all year suddenly feels further away than ever. Meanwhile, back at second high, Ethan finally tells Mia the full truth about everything. Not just the business, not just the novel, but the fact that he remembers things most people never should. He doesn't tell her he's been reborn, not exactly, but he tells her enough that she starts to understand. This isn't a boy who got lucky. This is a boy who's been carrying an entire lifetime of regret quietly, all by himself. Mia listens without a single word of judgment, so for first time, Ethan realizes just how much that means. Because in his last life, nobody ever looked at him the way she's looking at him right now. Not with confusion, just quiet, steady trust. I still think you should let me pay you back properly, she says softly, breaking the silence. Ethan laughs, some of the weight lifting off his chest for the first time in longer than he can remember. Deal, he tells her. With interest, wants us to actually make something out of all this. And for the first time since waking up in this second life, Ethan lets himself believe that might actually be true. Not because of the exam scores, not because of the money, but because of the people who chose to stand beside him. Jason, who once wanted to fight him, now works every single break shift by his side. Kevin, still back at first high, roots for him from a distance like an actual brother would. And Mia, who trusted him with everything she had, before she even fully understood why. This is what nobody in his last life ever gave him. People who chose him before he proved anything at all. Back at first high, the school's bid for provincial demonstration status quietly collapses under the weight of its own mistakes. Second high, meanwhile, keeps climbing, carried partly by one transfer student nobody saw coming. And somewhere in the middle of exam rankings and lingerie shipments and secret novel chapters, Ethan realizes something important. This life isn't just about revenge anymore. It's about actually building something worth keeping. The talent show finally arrives, and the auditorium is packed wall to wall with students and staff. Mia walks onto that stage first, hands trembling slightly as she sits down at the piano. The moment she starts playing, the entire room falls completely silent. Every note lands with a kind of quiet confidence nobody in this classroom has ever seen from her before. When she finishes, the applause is thunderous. And for the first time, Mia lifts her head and actually smiles at the crowd. Sophie leans over grinning. Told you. Most impressive talent in the entire class. Then it's Ethan's turn, and the entire auditorium leans forward, desperate to know what he's actually planned. He steps out with nothing but a deck of cards and a small wooden box, no explanation offered. What follows isn't flashy. It's clean, precise, the kind of trick that makes people genuinely gasp, instead of just clap politely. When he finishes, he doesn't bow immediately. He just smiles and says, "Do simple things repeatedly." The crowd erupts, recognizing the exact line from his open class speech weeks earlier. Backstage, Mia is waiting. And for once, she doesn't look away when he catches her eye. "You were amazing," he tells her, and she actually believes him this time. Weeks pass and the Gaokao finally arrives, the exact exam that once ended Ethan's entire future. This time, walking into that testing room feels completely different. He already knows the material. He already knows the pressure, and this time he knows exactly what's at stake. Every question that once broke him is now just another familiar page turning under his pen. When the results finally post, Ethan's name sits near the very top of the entire province. Not first high's top, not second high's top, the province. Mia's score climbs high enough to make her family's original plan completely unnecessary. Instead of settling for a conservatory back home, she's accepted straight into Yanjing, exactly where Ethan promised he'd take her. Jason, once barely scraping by, crosses the top-tier cutoff Ethan swore he could hit, exactly as promised. Back at first high, the fallout from that entire semester finally reaches its natural conclusion. Mr. Sullivan's certification application gets quietly denied, buried under an investigation that never should have started. Dean Hall's own reputation takes a hit too, unable to separate himself completely from the mess his son helped create. Jessica Lane graduates with average marks and an empty seat where old friendships used to be. She never does end up marrying Brad Stone in this timeline. That future, along with everything attached to it, simply never happens. Ethan doesn't gloat about any of it. He doesn't need to anymore. Because the truth is, he already spent an entire lifetime carrying that bitterness, and it never once made him happy. This time he chose something different. He chose to build instead of just survive. Graduation day arrives, and the whole senior class gathers on the field, caps in hand, sunlight cutting through the morning fog. Ethan stands beside Mia, Jason, Sophie, and Luna, the same people who chose him long before any of this success arrived. His novel, now a small but genuine success, sits published and printed, sitting on shelves he once only dreamed about. His business, once a desperate scramble for cash, has grown into something with actual staff and actual structure. And his relationship with Mia, once just a quiet deskmate arrangement, has become the steadiest thing in his entire life. Looking back over the past year, Ethan realizes something he never expected to feel: gratitude. Not for the rebirth itself, but for everything he chose to do with it. Because a second chance means nothing if you spend it exactly the same way you spent the first one. He didn't waste this life proving people wrong. He spent it building something they never saw coming. As the caps fly into the air, Ethan watches Mia laugh, genuinely, freely, in a way she never could have a year ago. That timid girl who once ran out of the classroom over a single confession is completely gone now. In her place stands someone confident, someone who knows exactly what she's worth. And Ethan realizes that might be the proudest thing he's done in either lifetime. Not the exam scores, not the business, not even the novel sitting in bookstores now. Just this: helping someone else discover the same thing he had to learn the hard way. That you are never as small as the people around you insist on making you feel. Kevin Park, still back at First High, sends one final message that afternoon. "Proud of you, man. Save me a seat wherever you end up." Ethan smiles and types back a simple reply. "Always did. Come find me when you're ready." Because that's the other thing Rebirth taught him. Loyalty deserves loyalty, no matter which school it comes from. The following week, university acceptance letters start arriving, one by one, changing every single life in that senior class forever. Ethan's letter comes exactly where he aimed for from the very beginning. One of the two most prestigious universities in the country. Mia's letter puts her in the same city, a promise fulfilled from a random deskmate request months earlier. Jason's letter surprises even him, landing well above where anyone, including himself, ever thought he could reach. Standing in his room that night, holding that university acceptance letter, Ethan thinks back to the version of himself who lost everything. That version of him never got to hold a letter like this, never got to choose his own ending. This time he did. And it feels nothing like revenge. It feels like closure. Back at First High, the demonstration school title officially goes to a different institution entirely, not First High. Second High doesn't win it either, but its reputation climbs high enough that nobody laughs at the name anymore. And somewhere quietly in the middle of that shift sits one transfer student who never meant to change anything at all. He just wanted a fair shot this time. Everything else was simply the natural result of getting one. Months later, settled into university life, Ethan opens his laptop one evening and starts a brand new file. Not a novel this time, a business plan. Something bigger than lingerie, something built to last for decades. Mia sits across from him, in their shared dorm building's common room, quietly practicing on a keyboard she brought from home. Jason texts from across the country, still running numbers, still hungry to prove that hospital bill never defined him. And somewhere in that quiet, ordinary evening, Ethan realizes the biggest twist of his entire story. He didn't need to be reborn to become someone worth knowing. He just needed the chance to try. Every person who doubted him, every teacher who dismissed him, every so-called friend who betrayed him, all of it faded into background noise. What remained was simple. People who choose you, without needing proof first, are the only people worth keeping close. Somewhere back at First High, Mr. Sullivan still tells the story of a difficult student who once talked back to him. He leaves out the part where that student ended up saving families, building a business, and topping the entire province. It's easier that way. Easier to remember the boy who refused a self-reflection instead of the man he actually became. But that's fine. Ethan Walker was never trying to change anyone's mind at First High. He was only ever trying to change his own story, and this time, he finally succeeded. Because here's the thing about second chances that nobody tells you. They don't erase the pain from the first life. They just give you the tools to build something better anyway. Ethan still remembers every humiliation from his last life in perfect, painful detail. But now those memories aren't wounds anymore. They're just the map that showed him exactly where not to walk again. And walking a different path, it turns out, changed absolutely everything. Not just for him. For Jason, who found real purpose instead of empty toughness. For Mia, who learned her own worth instead of hiding behind glasses and silence. For Kevin, who stayed loyal even when loyalty cost him nothing but time. Even for Jessica Lange, in a strange way, who was finally forced to face consequences instead of consequences always landing on someone else. Nobody in this story got a perfect ending. That was never really the point. What they got, instead, was honest, earned, the kind of ending you build with your own 2 hands. And really, isn't that the only kind of ending worth having in the first place? Somewhere out there, this exact same nightmare is probably playing out in some other classroom, some other city. A quiet kid getting overlooked. A bully getting away with something. A teacher looking the other way because it's easier. And somewhere in that story too, there might be a version of Ethan Walker, just waiting for his own second chance. The difference is, most people never get one. Most people only get the one life, the one set of mistakes, the one shot at getting it right the first time. Which is exactly why Ethan refuses to waste a single day of the gift he was given. Every morning he wakes up, remembering exactly how easily this could have all gone differently. And every morning, he chooses again, deliberately, to build instead of to burn. That choice, more than any exam score or business deal, is the real reason his story changed at all. Because rebirth was never the twist that saved Ethan Walker. The real twist was realizing he didn't need magic to become someone worth remembering. He just needed to try harder, kinder, smarter, the second time around. And maybe that's the actual lesson buried underneath every level up, every twist, every cliffhanger in this entire story. It was never really about the rebirth at all. It was about what a person chooses to do, once they finally understand what they're capable of. Ethan Walker didn't get a second life because he deserved one more than anyone else. He got a second life, and he simply refused to waste it. So the next time you feel like your own story is already over, remember this one. Sometimes the ending isn't the finish line. Sometimes it's just the moment you finally decide to start again, and that decision, more than any twist of fate, is what truly changes everything.